this month, 31-year-old school teacher Keenan Anderson died just hours after he was repeatedly shocked by an LAPD taser during an arrest. Now his death has sparked outrage and also a demand for answers.
Now, police body camera footage shows officers shocking Anderson with a taser and struggling with him following a traffic incident.
You're trying to do it for me. You're trying to do it. Stop it.
Now, police allege Anderson was trying to steal a vehicle, and they say he was acting erratically. He was then taken to a local hospital where he later went into cardiac arrest and died as a result. Here to discuss is retired NYPD detective and director of the Black Law Enforcement Alliance, Marq Claxton, as well as Anderson family attorney Carl Douglas. Thanks to the both of you for joining us today. What makes you confident that police are responsible for this situation and also that race played a factor?
Well, DeMarco, that's an issue in terms of race still to be decided. But clearly, when Mr. Anderson was tasered 6 separate times on the back of his heart, each taser charge having 50,000 watts of electrical energy, 6 successive charges being in violation of the LAPD's own taser policy, there's really no wonder that hours later, his heart began to flutter and trained medical professionals were unable to revive him. He leaves a 5-year-old son in his wake.
And Mark, let's talk to you now because officers appeared to have shocked Keenan with the taser over about 42 seconds. Is that unusual? How are officers trained on a taser? What's normal protocol?
Law enforcement has a guide for the level of force that's necessary in this instance and in many other instances as well, and that's the use of force continuum. So the question and what's troubling is whether or not the level of force, the amount of force that was used was appropriate and necessary to apprehend this individual. And it appears, unfortunately, that the level of force was excessive, and that may have very well caused his demise or contributed to his demise.
And Carl, LA's police union released a statement in defense of what they say happened, and we want to put it up for our viewers. This is from the Los Angeles Police Protective League. They are saying that minor auto accidents are usually handled with an exchange of information between the drivers and a call to one's insurance carrier. On the other hand, when an individual who is high on cocaine is in an accident, tries to open the car door of an innocent driver and then flees the scene by running into traffic, police officers must act. According to police, a preliminary toxicology report found that Anderson's blood did test positive for cocaine and marijuana. However, the LA coroner has not yet announced its findings. The statement also went on to accuse the family and attorney Ben Crump of trying to shamelessly profit from this tragedy. What's your response?
Regrettably, these are the tactics that the law enforcement always use in an effort to sully the name of the person that died. In our case, we have a body-worn camera video that shows that Mr. Anderson was compliant, saying, "Sir," he was respectful, and there were 3 trained officers there who were unable to handcuff an unarmed man who was then laying on the ground without having to taser him. That shows that there was a total breakdown in training by the LAPD. There were officers who were black, officers who were white, and this is a question where you never see a white pedestrian who has an encounter with the police have these kinds of exchanges. Police are trained to deal with people on the worst days of their life, whether the problems were because of mental illness, drugs, or alcohol. The force has to be reasonable. And in this case, it's clear that it was not.
And Mark, this has really reignited a debate about whether we should remove police officers from traffic enforcement. It's a move that really would change things a lot. What do you make of this? Is this really realistic?
That is a legitimate discussion that needs to be had, and there's some jurisdictions across the nation that have now prohibited their police officers from engaging in these routine, lesser enforcement options of traffic stops and things of that nature, these innocuous activities that police officers have routinely engaged in. And what you'll find is, unfortunately, history shows us that so often these very simple stops, if you will, these very simple stops of traffic infractions, or these calls for assistance that police officers routinely and normally engage in, end up in unnecessary fatalities. So it is a worthy discussion to have, as I think the nation agrees that we have to begin the process of shifting away from the traditional policing model and work more towards a public safety model, which incorporates a whole series of other disciplines, including social work, economic empowerment, and psychology, all these mediation alternatives to the traditional run, catch 'em, and lock 'em up strategies, because we've seen too many fatalities unnecessary because of that decision.
A very important discussion indeed. A special thank you to both of you, Director of the Black Law Enforcement Alliance, Marq Claxton, and Anderson Family Attorney Carl Douglas. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.